Recording in progress. Okay, it is rolling. Sound check. Test 1, 2, 3. And we're good. So hello, greetings, and welcome to Sound Avenue Talks. I'm Hyunji, and today we have Mariner and Domingo as our first guests. I did make a mistake in the podcast where I had mispronounced Mariner as Mariner. So for the rest of the folks out there who also thought it was pronounced Mariner, it's actually Mariner. See, I'm still getting it kind of confused, but okay, Mariner and Domingo. And just a side note, I do have to say that I apologize for any awkwardness from my end that arises throughout the podcast. This is the first time I've ever participated in a podcast, let alone host one. However, Chris and Jay have been really wonderful and they've been really engaging in the conversation, which made it a whole lot easier for me. So huge shout out to Chris and Jay and big thanks to you guys. So without further ado, let's dive into the podcast with Mariner and Domingo. Welcome to the first ever Sound Avenue Talks podcast. I'm your host, Hyunji, better known as Hyunjia. And today we have our first guests, Mariner and Domingo. Thank you so much for coming. Did I pronounce that right?
No, it's awesome. Everyone pronounces Mariner. It's Mariner, like
Mariner. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, everyone does it. You're fine. You're totally
Mariner. Okay.
Funny. I didn't actually know we were the first.
No,
so
the
first run of it. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
No. So this was I can't even believe this is happening. To be honest, like Dominic from the label owner, he and I were just talking, and suddenly we came up with this idea of doing this podcast for Sound Avenue, and we just made it happen, and here we are.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Dom's like that. Dom's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah.
He worked. Yeah, because of the hour differences. Me and him are actually on the same schedule.
Oh.
I kept super late, and then he wakes up. He's like, "Good morning from Belgium."
Okay. No, so I had no idea that you guys would be together. I thought it would be like 3 different locations.
Yeah, you know what? I actually meant to mention that to you, and and he's like, "No, we're gonna do it together." I mean, it makes sense. I mean, so
No, for sure.
Yeah, I'd rather you guys be in our, together. We're really seen together. Matter of fact, we just got a picture together. So
okay.
Yeah, and it's been quite a few years already. So
yeah, no, so
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I have been reading a little bit about you guys, on Beatport and other websites. Yeah, so you guys have over like 50 years of experience between you two, and you've started the electronic music scene since the 90s, right?
That is correct. I'll let him go first.
Yeah, sure.
I moved to Gainesville, Florida in 95 and kind of got pulled into, there's an infamous club there, or a famous club there, Simon's. And Simon's is this little dive in Gainesville, Florida, but every weekend he would fly in the biggest DJs on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I saw Sasha and Digweed for the first time, Cosmic Delight, the Chemical Brothers. And it was just this dive club in Gainesville. It's still there now. It's a
amazing
little more
dive club.
Yeah, it's not what it used to be as far as like now there's like a bar, and it wasn't like that before. It was just you went there, really bad lighting, amazing sound. It was just for the music and the scene back in the 90s. And then I signed to Cram Records from there, and then moved to Orlando in 96, and have been in the scene all the way through 99. And the scene kind of died in Orlando right around 2000. The nightlife the switch went off. Just because of new rules and laws that they had in Florida about last call had to be at 3:00 and all this. So there was no
more late nights.
Yeah, no more walking out of the club at 11.
Which we liked.
Yeah, I would produce here and there for years, and then Chris and I got together probably about 2.5 years ago. We were swapping remixes with each other, and then eventually just we started doing stuff that was so similar to each other, it was just easier for us to just it wasn't even like a collaboration. We just started writing together at the same time.
Yeah, we did. It actually kind of just naturally happened. I was actually working with someone else, and with a vocalist, and thank God that all ended now, because we wouldn't be talking to you right now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I actually, it's funny. I hadn't seen him in probably 15 years, and I was randomly going through Beatport, and I was clicking on some of his tracks. And I clicked on this one track, and I was like, dude, what is this? I'm like, what? I go, that's what he needs to be writing. So I called him, and I was like, dude, you got to come over. We got to write some stuff. And so that's kind of how it happened, how we met. But should I tell her about our first meeting?
Yeah.
So when he was talking about Cram Records, that's when I started to hear about his name here in Orlando. That was because we were both on tour and doing our own thing in different circles at the time. And I knew of him only because his record label owner and manager was actually the first guy that ever booked me in Orlando, ever to play a gig. I remember that. And he kept saying, got to meet this guy Mariner. You got to meet this guy Mariner. And he was talking about him, and he built he built a studio for him, or let him buy the studio. I don't know how that worked, but so we were going over at like 3 a.m, and I guess there was too many people. So right when we walked in, he told us to get the F out, slam the door. Like, well, there's my meeting to Mariner. That's awesome. I totally understood. There were too many people in the studio. That's how we met the first time.
That's really cool. I was actually going to ask you about the whole remix, the first time you guys did that remix thing and just came together. I mean, it's really not that common for that to happen, when you remix someone and then they just end up, like becoming a team together. This I find that really cool.
Well, we actually, did you ever work with anyone before me? I never collaborated with anyone. I couldn't.
Okay.
I always had bad luck with it, or too many chefs in the kitchen kind of situation. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Did you work with anyone else?
No. The first one was I was doing stuff on another label here in Orlando, and then Chris asked me to remix this song, Broke Genius.
Oh, that's right.
And Broke Genius was kind of the first one. So if you look it up on Beatport, like there's my version and then there's Chris'
version. There's a completely different version. But it was awesome. I loved it.
And then we went back and forth like 3 times, and then I wrote a track, Don't Let Go.
Oh, that was the one, though.
And when I wrote Don't Let Go, it's still my favorite track I've ever written. And then Chris remixed that, and I think right after that we started kind of writing together, because at that point we were kind of at the same level, and we both wanted the same thing, and we were both pushing each other musically and technology wise. Like
you still do that to me.
Yeah, we're still gearheads. Like we just love gear. So we were always trying to just get the new keyboards or new drum machines, or actually old drum machines and old keyboards.
Old anything, yeah, for sure. I got to tell you about this is when I knew I loved Jay, was when we first started working together. And I was at work, and he left me a voicemail, and the voicemail said, Domingo, I've been working 4 hours on a clap. Call me back. And I was like, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's how you write music. I mean, because, I think that's when we really saw eye to eye with each other, because we don't use presets. We don't, everything in every track that you've ever heard from us is custom from beginning to end, like clap, hi-hat, whatever it is, we made it. We didn't. And that's what I think, that's why we sound the way we sound. You know what I mean? Because it's if you listen to every record, it's funny that we get away with what we do get away with, because every record is so different. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can hear us in there, but they're really different. I think once we realized that was, I don't know, we just kind of kept doing it, and we're like, and they just got better and better. And he still does the same thing to me. I mean, honestly, I'm always scared when I see number version. I'm like, he's gonna hate it. He's like, when he doesn't call me, I hate it when he doesn't call me, because I'm like, he hates it. And then, but he always comes back with the exact right thing that I would totally slack on, which is true. He's right. You're right. That's a crappy transition. You're right. I need to redo it. And I think that's what that makes the good records. I think that's what it is. You know what I mean? That's
really cool. Like I had no idea that every element that you use your own. You make your own sounds for it,
Right, recreate them. Yeah.
Whoa.
I mean, obviously, in every keyboard there is a preset, or in every drum machine there's a The main, the main problem we ran into, and especially when we really started buying a lot of gear, was that we realized that none of the sounds are good enough for us. So they're not, you know what I mean? He had the same problem. He always has this problem. He buys a piece, he gets all excited, and he buys a piece of gear. I'm like, he's gonna hate it. He's gonna sell it in a week, and he does. We need more, and I don't know what our next. Matter of fact, we've got a bunch of releases we're gonna finish up, and I'm sure we're gonna end up talking about it. But what are we gonna sound like next, and what can we do differently? Because like even just going back to all the keyboards, it's not enough. We need more. We need something more creative. You know what I mean? Which is funny because most of the producers I know are going the other way. You know, they're all trying to go digital. They're all trying to, you know what I mean? And they're just taking sample CDs and whatever. But I don't know. I think we just both feel that way, and that's why we work well together. You know.
And I had I really liked the sounds of the synthesizers and drum machines in the 80s. So none of my gear is older than 1991.
No, it is not. No, it's not.
Wow.
Like we just got this 1978 CS5 here.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, we just picked. Matter of fact, he picked that up for me. I couldn't go get it, and he went and got it for me, and I was so happy. Just we're trying to keep looking for these odd toys, and some of them work for us, and some of them don't. You know what I mean? Which, by the way, we have two separate studios, and then we just come together when we need to, and we that's how we work. Because he has a completely different beast of a machine studio than I do. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, but I don't know. It's just I guess we agree on what we're looking for. It's never enough, and we always want something better. You know what I mean?
So as for effects, for example, do you also create them using your machines?
I'll let you answer that one. You do more than I do.
So with the effects, when I met Chris had a lot of gear, and all I had was my MIDI controller and my iMac, and that's everything that I wrote on. And he had no idea because I would disguise it so much, or I would put so much effort into it, not sounding like it was a plugin when I was using it. So
I couldn't tell, put it that way. I was like, holy crap, you're doing that? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'll go through stacks and stacks and stacks of effects just to get these crazy effects that we add onto them. But then at the same time, I'll have like my DX7 and I just want it raw. So all it has is just a sustain pedal, and I'll just play something off of it. And keyboards like that, the DX7, the JX8P, like those things are kind of the secret sauce, because everybody's like, I don't know why you guys sound different. It's just different. And it's because they grew up listening to these sounds. They were just in different. Right. They were in like 80s and 90s pop songs, and so we're using all of that, the synth pop stuff, and
from the real units, not like fake ones. You know what I mean?
And when we started writing, we were when we put records out, they were putting us under Deep House.
Oh yeah, I was like, we're not like Deep House.
Like it's not really Deep House; it's more progressive because it's prettier. And then before we knew it, people were like, "You guys sound like Organic House," and we were like, "What the hell is Organic House?"
We didn't even know. We were like, wait, there's another genre? Yeah, you know what's funny about, I'm going to comment on that, is when he, like what he said, how the genre and the categories, the first labels that we were actually with were actually having a problem. They didn't really know how to, like when we first came in, they're like, wait, this is really different. So they weren't sure if they wanted to take the risk, and put out the record. And I remember, it's funny because now how many records we've done since then, but I remember at that time, I had to physically call the label and convince them that if this doesn't work out, then just drop me from the label. I go, that's how much I think it's going to work. And we were right. so good call. But we ended up leaving that label anyway. We don't work with them anymore. But Dom's have been our main label for a little bit, and is Balkan, because that they're the two that supported us right off the bat. As a matter of fact, there was an article that was written recently about that, because as much as Dom gets a lot of credit for all the new ones that we've been doing, Milos really does get the initial credit for really seeing what he saw in us. And I still appreciate that to this day. So yeah, I mean, he's supported that from the very beginning. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure if you know Mitch from Release. He's the guy that writes all the articles for Release Records and for the Release Record Pool. He actually called. I just heard this story recently. He called Milos when we came out with what was the Playground? Fantastic Playground was one of the first ones we did for them. And he said, I don't know what you got. I don't know where you found these guys, but this thing's amazing. Because no one knew who, because of the moniker or name, Marilyn and Domingo. They probably knew that, and they know both names separately, but they didn't really know them together. You know what I mean? Which is weird, because we're having a Facebook and Instagram. We're old. I didn't know all this. We're trying to mesh it on one page, and it's a nightmare. So, but anyway, I'm giving them credit where credit's due, because it was different, and I think that's why we're doing okay. You know?
Yeah, organic house is a pretty new genre, no?
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty new. It's doing really well, and I like what they're doing with it. So I don't know all the newer stuff. It's starting to sound the same again, though, and I think that's why we're probably going to end up changing soon or something, right? We're going to do something.
Yeah, it's starting to speed up a little bit, and progressive is starting to trickle back into it.
Yep, I totally agree with that. And that's not what we want to do. I mean, I did progressive forever. So, yeah, I guess the key is I want to be ahead of that and not be, you know what I mean? Because everyone's jumping on, I'm just going to say it, everyone's jumping on the organic bandwagon now. You know what I mean? Even the labels. Just look at the labels. I'm not going to say any names. Some of the bigger ones, all of a sudden they're organic. I'm like, no, that was 2 years ago. Where are we at? You know what I mean? So, but I hopefully we'll figure it out. And he comes up with brilliant ideas as far as that goes, as far as making new changes. And, I'm probably the one that fights it more than, I'm like, oh, that's so different, man. But then I always like, what's the new one? The one that we got to clear the sample for. What is it?
Oh, the Goodness of Earth.
Yeah, there's this track that he has, Goodness of Earth, that he originally had an idea for, and he gave me the parts, and here's Marilyn. No, that's not what I intended at all. I'm like, oh, okay, well, and I kept redoing it and it was actually called Roller Skate before, right? It was the original, and I did it 4 times, and after the 4th time, I was like, I'm just not going to do this anymore. So he came up with the final concept, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't tell him this, but I was like, I don't know, it's so different. And then I listened to it, and I heard it while I was walking around the house or whatever, and I was like, oh my God, I hear it now. That track's a massive hit. And then, you know how I know I didn't tell you this. So I let my girl hear it, and she lost her mind. Oh no, you let her hear it when we were in New York.
Oh yeah.
And then I go, well, I want one more test, because whenever I'm testing popular tracks like that, I want to make sure it's someone that's usually a girl, because they don't want to say anything to me about it. They just play it and dance. And if they don't dance or they don't say anything to you, they don't like the track. And that's usually the way it works. So she played it for one of her best friends, and apparently I never told you this. She goes, that it made me cry, and then I wanted to dance, and I was like, I go like, for real cry? Or and my girl goes, yeah, it was for real. I go, that thing's a hit. So again, it's just about keeping an open mind and perspective, and what someone say about the musical thing. If you're not willing to be that you're risky and throw it out there, then you've got nothing. I mean, you're just going to sound like everybody else. And I think that is M&D. That's it. Is we don't want to sound like anybody else. We never will. And thank God for us that people are accepting of what we're doing, because we didn't write it for anyone's intentions anywhere. We just wrote it. And it's just awesome that, you know, my niece said it best. She goes, it's crazy the amount of reach that your guys' music has done in 2 years. It's amazing. I forget that it's only been 2 years. It's not that long. I mean, I don't even know how many records. How many we've done? Like 50? I don't even know anymore. We lose track. Matter of fact, Dom had a track. He goes, "Where's my track?" I go, "What track?" And we didn't even know what it was. We had to look it up. So that's how far we've gotten with that. We've written so many. We get lost in it, you know. So
have you guys ever thought of creating your own label to really like release your own, you know, style of music?
Actually, we have, and I'm letting him answer that because it was his idea originally.
Okay.
It started with bad remixers. That's all I'm going to say, and I'll lift off from there.
Yeah. Whenever we get hired to do a remix, like we first of all, we're fairly picky about which songs we want to remix. Like if there's nothing there, we can tell if we have a lot to work with or if there's nothing to work with. We can also tell if what there is to work with, if that's going to fit with our style or what we want to do next. So we just did this Million Watchers remix. Wait till that track comes out.
You keep saying million, it's billion. Billion watchers, guys. Billion watchers from Russia. So, yeah.
But yeah, we would, whenever we do a remix, we go all out on the remixes. And on the flip side, whenever we would write an original track and then the label would look for somebody to remix it, it's rare that we're impressed with it. And so we wanted to just start, we were going to just come up with a different moniker.
Yeah, fake name. And
just a fake name and just remix our own
stuff. Awesome. Because it's disappointing. And let me just, before he finishes that, my comment on that is to all you remixes out there, is the point of a remix is to keep the integrity of the original. And that's what the newbies don't understand. They just go off on some random tangent or have some crappy track in their computer that they wrote already and just throw our parts on it. That's not acceptable to us. So that's where that's going from. Yeah. But now back to the label thing.
Yeah, you can definitely tell when somebody just grabs some presets and some stuff that sounds like you would hear in a department store. Like they just
it's horrible.
I'm like, man, this is like there's no groove, there's no like soul or heart in it.
Yeah, you can feel it, man.
Yeah, they just commercialize, or not even commercialize. It's just, it sounds templated.
Standard. Yeah, it's very standard.
Yeah, so instead of doing a label or going out and doing our own label, which is a lot of work.
That is a lot of work. I don't want to do that.
We're actually, every once in a while, we'll write a track and we'll save it for an album that we're working on.
Yeah, so that's been in the works.
Yeah, so we're probably a couple tracks into that right now. So yeah, there's too much with COVID now being kind of lifted, I guess, and touring being more open to where we can go out to clubs, or being flown out to clubs to perform. That's kind of where we want to put our energy, is into writing new tracks and then just kind of spreading our music and being able to perform to crowds. So having to stay in the back and work on a label and promote the label and build the label. And I mean, I know there are some people that did that successfully and there's a genre Side Breaks, and this guy Headflux did that. And Headflux is amazing. And his music is incredibly complicated and just badass. But he had somebody that was his business partner that didn't write music, and all he did was help Headflux build that label to put out Headflux's music.
That's a lot of work. No, not the label, but I guess to simplify what your question is we didn't create the moniker Second Name. So every time that he feels that we have either have a great idea or a track that might be so good that we don't want to give it to the public yet, that kind of situation, or it's too different or odd, but we always think it's good, he's holding those for an album that eventually we'll probably craft and keep recrafting until it's done. I haven't even gotten that headspace yet. He's way ahead of me on that. I'm always day-to-day operations, you know what I mean? But eventually I think there will be an album, and I think it'll be the right place at the right time when it comes, you know what I mean? Again, we're back to taking risks again, you know what I mean? And I think with the new song that we were talking about, The Goodness of Earth, my fear, and I'll be honest, I didn't tell him this yet either, so this is all news to him, is I'm fearing it is going to be a big track. But I fear it because of the crossover thing that happens because I've had that happen before, where I wrote this track with one intention, and all of a sudden it's on the radio. All of a sudden you're this pop guy, you know what I mean? And I did all that already, and I actually went the wrong direction with it, and went ahead and kept doing that, and ended up working for major labels and did the whole Grammy thing, and it sounds great in that world, but in this world, it actually will tank your career. People don't care about a Grammy. They don't care, you know what I mean? And I don't want to be the pop guy again. It took me 7 years to shake that off me. You know what I mean? We want to be new and innovative. But at the same token, on the flip side of that coin, wouldn't be bad to have a nice little pop for our gig status, and then fold right back and do some more underground tracks. You know what I mean? But I know that record's a pop. Now I know it's a hit, not just pop hit. I think it's going to cross over so many different genres. Now that I've seen it and that what it makes people feel like, you know what I mean? It's that's a fear of mine, but at the same time, we're going to do it. You know what I mean? We're going to put it out there. So, you know, but everything that's going to come to a fold will eventually be an amazing album, I think. You know what I mean?
Okay, wow.
Both of our ideas crafted into one album at someday. Don't know when, but
yeah. So I know you guys started off with making like hip hop and breaks, right? And somehow
I was all yeah, especially in Florida in the 90s, in Orlando. Like it was the DJ Icy was here, Baby Ann was here. It was breakbeat central to be in Florida. And the tracks that I wrote to get signed to Cram Records, which was a breakbeat label, were all breaks. And I was known for breaks, and the scene in Orlando just put their arms around me because of breaks. And it was all more of the piano, feeling good, raise your hands kind of breaks that really went off in the 90s.
1997.
Yeah. And then I started, you know, going to Winter Music Conference a little bit more down in Miami and getting influenced by people that were not doing breaks, you know, a lot more BT. I get heavily influenced by BT.
He loves BT.
Way Out West.
Way Out West.
Yeah, they're good.
I love them.
So I started to do a lot more 4 on the floor, but then kind of got out of it. And then I was like, look, nobody's really paying attention to me. I'm just going to go back and start doing some breaks again. So I put out a couple more breaks. One of them was probably one of the best breaks that I've ever done.
Which one?
Slow Tide.
Yeah.
And then we haven't done a full break track.
It's because I'm avoiding it.
But Eden Wild is...
He's sneaking it in slowly. I heard it on the new one. He goes, yeah, did you feel that breakbeat moment? I'm like, yeah, it was kind of breakbeat. But
it's hard to deny it.
Cool.
It's hard to deny it when you play it, and then everybody in the club reacts to like the break portion that comes in. And
yeah, the billion watchers, billion, not million. We played it as the last record in Brooklyn a couple weeks ago, and it just smashed. And I was like, wow. This record's amazing. And that's what he said, the breakbeat. Because I'm scared of breakbeat only for one reason, because I don't want to be, categorized or pigeonholed again, which I know he won't let happen, but he's sneaking it in nicely. It always happens, and I don't notice it till like the third time I listen. I'm like, wait a minute, it's not 4/4, but it sounds amazing. So yeah, I think again, he's willing to take the risk. I fight it, but eventually I give in and we just write it. So.
Yeah, we did Eden Wild, where the whole probably last 2/3 of the track is breaks.
That track scared me, but it was amazing.
And then we get feedback from Sasha. He was like, "That original is pretty cool," and I was like, "That's all I needed to hear."
That's all you need to hear. We had a lot of reviews on that one. I was scared again, but you know he hides it nicely because he knows I'm going to pay attention to the cool tweaky line that's over at the top of it. And I'm like, the whole thing is great. And actually, yeah, that track, that to me was, the original was a really good. Who remixed that one? Who did the remix? Was it?
You know who did it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that was when we definitely officially, because we were like trying to hire our own remixers, and even for the labels, even for Dom, we handed Dom some of our stuff that was already remixed and packaged, ready to go with huge names on it. But again, even though we paid them, just huge disappointment. And I think Dom's been really good about that. Matter of fact, on the next ones, that's his idea was for us to do a Billion Watchers remix. And unfortunately, he goes, wait a minute, that was my idea, because we did it for Stellar Fountain instead of him. And I guess they had a jump on him, but I guess. That was his idea. What I like about that is Dom's seeing the future of what we want to do, and he's trying to get people and remixers like Death on the Balconies, something like that. And I had never heard of him, right? And I listened to him, I was like, whoa, these guys are great. So at least like what Dom's doing for us, in no other label cares or would do. And you know, Balkan is. At least they asked. It doesn't always turn out because they're quite a bigger label, But eventually, I mean, he always ends up getting us something cool. But I think, I don't know where that's going to go in the future with the labels. I'm scared to go to another label because, like, what if they don't support? Because I've been with labels many times where they always say they're going to do that, but then when we start changing, for them it's too much and it's too weird, and then they don't want to put it out, you know. So I don't know. I think we're getting to the point where we've got enough recognition on our belt now at this point where they're going to put it out anyway. You know what I mean? And I think they'll just appreciate it and just see it for what it is, you know. But there's some amazing tunes coming out that I think are really different for what we've been doing. I think so. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to that.
I was curious to know how you know, starting from the breaks, how did your production, you know, evolve into like the more organic style for both of you?
Well, for me, I've always, my whole thing being Mariner has always had like this water kind of theme around everything. And my first album, I had so many nature sound effects in just about everything that I did.
Really?
There was a lot of it. And I remember the first time that I performed at the Winter Music Conference, like people were coming up afterwards and they were like, we love all the nature sound effects that we're hearing. And I didn't know it at the time, but they were ambient performers. So they were recognizing that's like cool. All of the weird stuff at the background, not like the bass lines or anything. So that's kind of how I've always put it in there. And then when we started doing deep house, we were just automatically putting what we call dirt in it.
Right.
So there's like this layer of cracks and noise and static, and it just makes it dusty and more earth feeling.
Yeah. There's a lot going on in the background for sure on all of them.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. We were doing that with deep house, and we didn't even realize there was a genre called organic house.
Yeah, we were just naturally putting organic. That's a good point. That's what yeah, he's right. So
okay, I see.
Yeah, we were just doing it naturally, and then as that progressed, we were both really digging it. So we were really trying to do more live instrumentation. For matter of fact, we had a comment from Mitch recently on a review about. Which I love. He didn't have all the information, but I called him out on it. He goes, I'm going to change your article. I'm like, no, don't do that. I'm just letting you know. And let me tell you what it is he always writes the best reviews about how we write stuff. I'm like, it's like he was there at the session, you know what I mean? But he's talking about our percussion elements, and he was saying that, you know, we love how Marin and Domingo always take it to the next level, and we'll make sure that they're recorded, analog, and the whole thing, and hiring musicians and to come in. That was the thing that I told him. I said, actually, that was Mariner that wrote all that, and he actually played it live. He goes, oh, that's awesome. So again, we were just seeking more instruments, you know what I mean? And I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do in here as far as synths go, because it's a very, you got to use it to understand it, and if it's not working, if not, get rid of it. And in the meantime, he's bought a lot of percussion. They got a lot of stuff in there.
Shaker game.
Yeah, he's the shaker king for sure. And we had one comment that I always love. It's shakers on point. I mean, that's just awesome because he spends hours doing that stuff. Just one little shaker, you know, just to figure out the groove, and if it's too quantized or it feels weird, or he's going to change it all. He's going to redo it. So, but I think. We're always trying. Matter of fact, we just watched a video right before you called us, and he showed me. I won't say any names, whatever, but it was this cool video with a girl using a bunch of cool random stuff around the house, toys and materials and stuff to do a track with. And again, it's just interesting to me because then they had a hand drum, and then he got. I'm like, well, we should buy one. He's like, no, we should go to a trash dump and physically record it. Genius, it's genius. He's right, because that's what that actually was, you know, pipes and old trash cans. So again, I think we both just gravitate towards like real stuff, and I think it's either just in us or it's just part of also coming from the analog era too. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
So and, you know, I remember when we first came out, Mitch's comments were like, this is like rich and bold. Don't know what they're doing. I'm like, no, actually, we're not doing anything. Matter of fact, we didn't EQ the track. We just recorded it analog. And they're like, oh, because that's really what it is. You know what I mean? We just make sure that we have, you know, real live elements to it, which is voltage, you know, not voltage versus algorithm.
Yeah, I actually don't like stuff sounding too clean.
No,
So
no.
like
he
I
hates
have
it.
like the JX8P is my baby, and I went and bought a 1983 line mixer to run it through it just so it sounds worse than it actually is.
The little BU meter on it is great. Yeah, that's awesome. Too clean is not a good thing. So.
No, that's really cool. As for me, I haven't been, producing as long as you guys have. The only piece of equipment I have is the Moog Sub 37, and to be honest, I don't even use it all that much. But I know there's so much to learn on that synthesizer.
Yeah,
it is. I feel you. I don't have one anymore. We sit down and go through other stuff, but yeah, there's a lot. You got to learn. You sit down, but you will sit there for hours on it.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm really impressed with the sounds that Ben Beaumier has on his new album. They're really dusty, and you can hear like white noise almost under every one of the sounds that he's using. It's not clean at all.
No.
And it sounds gorgeous the way he's playing it.
No, he's genius the way he does that, for sure. Matter of fact, America called me and goes, that Bomer thing, he's doing something different. I don't know what he's doing. And I looked at the video and I was like, no, actually, he's doing the same stuff we have, but it's the way he does it is just amazing. The layers and just the way he does it. He's a fully analog guy. You can hear it. I mean, it's awesome. We just, he's got his own thing in the way he's recording it. And I think that's just kind of the way we are. You know what I mean? There's always something in there that people aren't hearing, and it's usually probably either subharmonic stuff that they're hearing that they love that makes it feel good to them. Someone said that once. They're like, it's weird. It doesn't matter how whatever track you put out, it makes us feel good. And I'm like, that is awesome, because that's exactly what we're shooting for.
Okay, so the thing about digital sounds, is it because it doesn't sound as rich, perhaps, or maybe the quality is just not?
No, well, they're not. I mean, you can do an A/B against anything like that, and you have an 808, a real 808 versus a sampled 808 or whatever. I guess the bottom line, to cut that one short, digital lacks voltage and real harmonics, and everyone thinks they can add it in there with a fake 2 plug-in and all this. That doesn't work. You cannot replicate 44 hertz and 16K up digitally, period. As a mastering engineer, because that's what I actually do, is the first thing I do is I put their track in an analyzer, and I can tell right off the bat, I'm like, they have 0 analog in here. And that you're missing an element, a human element of all the music you've ever heard from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way up. That is no longer in people's music if they're not doing analog. So that's a problem. You know what I mean? And it sounds good. So
yeah, when you use an analog keyboard like the JX8P or
love it,
or a Moog, it's the circuitry is working with you. It's like helping you generate these sounds. Like that sound had never been generated before until you hit those keys.
Yep.
And even if you don't change a parameter and you hit the keys again, that keyboard is like, all right, I'm going to use all of my internal circuitry to make that sound again. I'm not triggering a sample, and it's not coming off of some non-analog oscillators or wannabe oscillators.
It's movement.
Yeah.
It's moving. It's moving in with voltage and circuitry, meaning it's actually physically moving. Yeah. And I think that's what the difference is too. And even like doing a quick summing mix off the console, it could be one track. It's still going to feel looser and not so robotic or quantized, because it's going to naturally pull it. It's going to have a delay or something that feels natural to the human being. Like if you ever listen, like we notice tracks right off the bat. I'm like, dude, everything in this track is quantized right to the grid. Like, I mean, it just feels like a robot. You know what I mean? Yeah. But and most of the lines, actually all his lines for sure are all performed. They're performed. We actually perform them and record them to make, and then when we get it right, we just snap it in. There's no quantize. You don't need it. You know what I mean? So.
I'm just hearing you guys describing all these things about the analog sounds and how the synthesizers actually creating those sounds. It makes me. I'm just sitting back here feeling I'm like all self-conscious about my music. I'm just rethinking about how I'm making music now, because
I'm like, that's awesome. Hey, how old are you now? Do you mind if I ask?
Oh no, me, I'm 25.
Exactly. And you know what? That's why, because most of that generation, you weren't born in the analog era. But that's exactly why this interview is cool, because I think I would love for other people to understand what you did. It's a light bulb. Like, oh my God, wait a minute. I could do it better. I could do it, make it more human. Absolutely.
Definitely.
For sure. It's just that this side of the recording now has to be taught or shown, because it's hard, it's difficult, and it's a lot to know. But once you understand the concept of harmonics, you know, this is what I try and tell younger people. Do you like that? Yeah. Well, guess what? That the real keyboard's online for $300. Go get the real one. There you go. Now you have the real sound. You know what I mean? You got to physically record it. That's all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I always look for warmth in a synthesizer. I don't like cold synthesizers. So I've tried, like he was saying earlier, I've tried to buy a few modern keyboards.
That didn't work out.
Yeah. And I'm a huge fan of Korg. And
what was the one you got?
I got the Wave State, and then I got the I can't remember what the other one is that I got. And I returned them within 24 hours.
I didn't even get to ask you what it sounded like.
It's not warm at all. Like, it should feel like a blanket. Like,
I was surprised about that one. I remember that. Yeah, I think he had it for a day.
But I mean, there's a time and place for hybrid, like the BW8000, like hybrid.
Yeah. Love the
it's an analog keyboard, but it's going through digital filters. So, and it has a little bit more bite to it.
Yeah,
so
those are
time
cool.
And place for it.
Yeah, like the Nord. The Nord's a hybrid.
Yeah, the Nord's a Nord.
Well, yeah, the Nord's a Nord.
The Nord's amazing.
The Nord leads it. Well, it's funny. Yeah, the Nord A1. That's correct. It has to be the A1. I mean, that's it. We were supposed to take a picture of us together with our main keyboard that added secret sauce. His was the what's the one that you used?
The JX.
The JX, and mine was supposed to be the Nord, because there's never not been one record that I've done that didn't have the Nord in it, and it was only because it was the only keyboard I had when I was younger, and I toured with it for like 12 years. So it's just one of those keyboards. I just love it. It's a hybrid though, so they're hard to find. We're trying to find another one now because mine's all broken, but it's still on and it's working. So keep it going,
Yeah, I should start doing some research on some good keyboards to invest in.
Well, we're friends now. You can ask us. That's
For
always
sure.
you just bought a Moog. That's a huge step. I mean, that's a piece. Matter of fact, he didn't even recognize it. We were watching a video. That thing is amazing. It's just, now again, we're back to wanting to change. Even when I originally sold it, I just called him right out of the blue, and I was like, I'm selling it. I'm like, I need something. I don't know what it is, but it's not this right now. So I think it's about the keyboard of right now. But with the newer stuff, we're definitely having problems with all the new stuff that's out there. I sold them all. I don't have them anymore because they don't do it. They're not doing it. So I don't know what the next thing's going to be. We'll figure it out. We're going to have to go to space probably to find it, but we'll figure it out.
So now I have a series of these rapid fire questions. It's inspired by Tim Ferriss. I don't know if do you listen to Tim Ferriss? I mean, he's a really great guy. I think he has some really wonderful questions. I mean, you don't have to answer them. Sorry?
Who wrote these down for you?
Tim Ferriss. He's a guy who does podcasts.
Okay. Cool.
He's been doing them for years, and he's a really great guy to listen to. But you don't have to answer these, like super quick. But okay, so here we go. What is something you'd like people to know about Mariner and Domingo? If there's one thing that you'd like people to know.
Probably that we're both house kids from the 90s.
True. We're old ravers. We're ravers. We're ravers. We're like ravers. He's right about that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I'm never going to lose that. I go to, if I go to a club and we're not performing, I love b-boy circles.
Yep.
I love, the little house girls out there pulling off these incredible dance moves. We put a lot of props. We'll stand there and dance and listen to other DJ sets, and you know, we give props to other
Yeah,
DJs.
you're right.
We just love the scene and the music.
Yeah.
It's we're not.
It's the feeling we always had.
Yeah.
The same feeling when we were kids. Yeah, you're right about that. He's right. Because I mean, every track that we've ever done, I think that's what we're always trying to achieve is that feeling again. You know what I mean? From the first time you discovered a rave or a house, you went to your first rave and it's, oh my God, what is this? You know what I mean? Those were that's always going to be in both of our hearts. I think that's a forever thing. I think once you discover it and understand it, it never goes. Especially, I'm sure you've heard and anyone else has heard back in the 90s when this was the mecca of, you know, where Sasha and Digweed got their chops and learned, and a lot came from Orlando back then. And it was because it was a special time. It's kind of like us trying to explain the 70s. There were people trying to explain the 70s to us. It was a magical time. You had to be there. And he's right.
Yeah.
You had to be there. And if you were there, you got it. And you understood it. And it never goes away. It's always going to be inside you. It's a good point. I can't even answer that one. That's it. He's right. So, all right, next rapid fire.
When you hear the word successful, who's the first person that comes to mind?
Eddie Van Halen. He's my hero. The way he played guitar and he was successful with it, and he didn't want this success. And I think that's what successful is you're not trying to be successful. You just were because you loved it. And that's, I love what I do. I don't care about the money. Some people don't like that. You know, some people, whatever. I don't do this for the money. I do it because I love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right.
Successful people are, you know, the ones that have kind of reached, they've already surpassed, I'm doing this to go on tour and for the fame and for the money, but they're successful because their music is timeless.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter.
Good point.
But then there's new things that are happening that I think are very important. Like I think Greta Van Fleet is one of the most important bands to come out in a long time.
You sent me that link?
Yeah, I mean, they sound incredible. It's not the genre at all what we do. I mean, it's rock, but it's just incredible, pushing the boundaries, and they have skyrocketed. Like
because they're different.
They're extremely successful.
They're doing something new.
So yeah, I mean, I think if you're able to produce something that's timeless and you're doing it just to make good music, and or whatever it is that you do, if you just kind of, you know, transcended.
That's a great
money or fame.
Exactly.
And your stuff is just gonna, like, I do not listen to the radio. I haven't listened to the radio in probably 7 years. Because it's crap.
I can't.
It has a shelf life of about 2 weeks, and then there's I cannot stand listening to that.
So I guess I think we both agree success is doing something that they loved, and it became something different and better, and it did transcend money and fame. He's right.
Okay. Let's say you're stuck on an island. If you could bring only one item, what would it be?
I'll let you go first. It's like suntan lotion.
I was going to say like a drum machine or something, but then I was, wait a minute, we don't have electricity. So actually, you know what? After watching the movies, a toothbrush.
Wow, I did not expect neither of those answers.
I didn't either. So we'll go with that. You go. All
right.
I'm going to say drum machine, but.
I mean, why not? Okay, last question. If there's one book that you would recommend to someone, which book would it be?
That's a tough one.
Man.
I'll let you answer
that. You know, I've read a few business books. I've read, you know, Chop Wood. I can't remember the name. It was like chopping wood, cherry water.
What are you talking about, man? What happened is what happened. Chopping wood now. Those are business ones, huh? That's the book you would suggest to me?
There's also one. It's the Electronic Music Bible.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. That's a group.
I haven't heard of that one.
It's like 4 inches thick. It goes through every genre.
That's cool.
Every influence of electronic music. It goes way back to the early days of Detroit techno and Chicago house, and it's a really good book to tell and to learn everything about where this this music came
That's
from.
a great one, actually.
Because there's a lot of people that are, they'll go out and they'll buy a laptop and they'll install a keyed version of a software that they got, and they have no understanding
where
of
it came from,
where it came from, or they don't really care. They just want to emulate somebody that they hear on a top 10 list or something.
Yeah.
Who's the author of the book?
It's I'm pretty sure it's the electronic music Bible, I think is what it was called.
Okay.
That's not we don't know if that's the author, but
okay.
That's the name of the book. I actually read one good one that helped me understand music in general, and it was actually a science book, which was weird. It was Principles of Science in Microtechnology in Human Life or something. Like, it's a really long title. And when my mom's boyfriend handed it to me, he's like, "This is going to change your life, Chris." And I was like, "What? Science?" But I read it and I was like, I get it. And it was about a lot of human elements and stuff like that. But it was Principles of Science in Music and Humanity, I think. I'll have to look it up exactly, but I'll give you the title. But it's, it revolved back to music and back to nature. So I don't know, back there again, you know what I mean? So
yeah, I really don't think there's a huge difference between the world of sciences and music. It's all tied in,
right,
in some ways, and we can all.
And the bottom line, it's all connected. Yeah, that's the term of the book for sure. It's all connected.
Yeah. Okay, so to wrap up the podcast, where's a place that people can best stay up to date with your projects or your releases?
Well, I'll answer that because we're in a mess with I said social media. But we have officially created our official Mariner and Domingo SoundCloud after 2 years, because he had his own SoundCloud. I have mine, and it was very confusing for people to put the two together. People started to, but I think now it's just Mariner Domingo. It's SoundCloud. It's just Mariner and Domingo. But we also have Mariner, no plus or anything, just MarinerDomingo.com. That's all of our. You can just click on the SoundCloud links there. You can get there that way. Obviously, if you're overseas, a lot of people are using Instagram. So we officially created the Mariner Domingo. It's Mariner.Domingo on the Instagram. Okay. But those are our official pages that are just now being released after 2 years. So we didn't really think about it. I didn't know it was going to become an issue because we didn't know what was going to happen with this. So,
no, but social media definitely is the place these days to go find artists.
He doesn't even have it. So
I'm pretty boring. I don't even listen to electronic music.
I hate it when you don't say that ever again.
I'll listen to some amazing stuff to get some influences, but I try and keep my influences outside of the genre.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Because that keeps our stuff sounding totally different.
I just realized it, dude. That, and then I'm the opposite. I do nothing but listen to electronic. And I think that's great, because in order to introduce all the elements that he wants to introduce, we can't just throw them in there. Like it won't work all the time on the dance floor. You know what I mean? So I guess that's a great way to look at it too. It's the mesh of both of what we love and put it together and make sure that it works on the dance floor. So that's good.
No, it's really cool how the way you guys work. It's so different. Yeah, it complements. You guys really complement each other in that sense.
Okay. So I gotta tell you a funny story real quick before we end out. So the first gig that we had as Mariner and Domingo was recently. We, all through COVID, we were banging out records, but no one had actually seen us in person. And we had no pictures up. And then we get to the gig and like, wow, you guys are opposite. And I'm like, yeah, but it's awesome, right? So that's our new gimmick. It's just, it is what it is. That's what we are. That's how it works.
That's really cool.
Even your wife said that online. Yeah. She goes, Mariner and Chris are so different, but when they come together and make music, it's awesome. So she's right. It is what
That's really great. Are there any upcoming projects or releases that you would like to share to the world, to promote?
I mean, I think we talked about them, right? And we talked about the billion watchers thing that's coming out in Stellar Fountain. That's one of the big ones. What else we got coming out?
Well, the Goodness of Earth, we're trying to decide what we're going to do with it.
Yeah, that's a big decision. Trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I might be able to let you hear a sneak peek of that. And I mean, we got another remix that came in. We have 2 originals that we're working on right now. And we have this huge backlog of originals that we started.
Yeah, we have a lot of
and
them.
then they just get interrupted by remixes that are coming in. And then
or new ideas.
Yeah, and we're constantly, like, if we have something that sits around for 3 or 4 months, we may have evolved beyond doing that anymore. So it just gets trashed and we just don't do it anymore.
Yeah, we listened to it and we're like, it was cool, but wow, we wrote that. That was different. So that and you know, it's funny is the comment to that is some of the labels weren't used to that with us either when we started doing stuff with Proton. I actually called them. I was like, where is our record? Like, it's been 6 months. It's like, well, that's not a long time. I'm like, to us it is. I'm like, that's 6 months ago to me and Mary were like, we don't even know what that record is anymore. It's so old to us. But they have a point. They got to make time for the remixes. I get it, but in our heads, we're like, it's so old. I don't even want to listen to it anymore.
No, so I get it. Yeah.
I think we move faster than the average bear. I think it's just ideas and maybe being. And I think, you know, if I had to put it in a nutshell too, once you understand and get past the engineering side of things, and you understand all this, like, I don't really have to think about firing up I understand it's second nature to me. So all we're thinking about is the music. And unfortunately, when you're first starting, it's not that easy. You're not thinking about it. You're trying to figure out, why isn't this working? But so we're both past that and have been past that. But we're constantly focusing in on new stuff, new sounds, new music.
That's really great. So thank you so much to both of you, Chris and Jay, for participating in this podcast. It's Jay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to address with your name.
I don't even know if I can pronounce your last name. Roebuck. I got it. Sears Roebuck. There it is. Got it.
No, I'll be honest with you. I was
too for the. I did not know. I thought you guys had been doing this. I didn't know we were the first. That's actually. Yeah, Marin and Domingo.
Yeah, for sure. You guys are the first. And honestly, I was so nervous before starting, even during the podcast, because I've never done a podcast before. I've never hosted a podcast. So.
Really? We wouldn't have known.
So
awesome.
Thank you very much. Now I even had to, run to the store to get myself some wine to calm myself down a little before the show started. So.
That's cool. Oh, you did great, man. You're guy that gave you tips.
Thank you so much.
You got proper headphones. There you go.
No, I tried to prepare as much as I could, to have the best experience.
So you were fine.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, I hope to be hearing you guys around again soon.
Oh, I'm sure. And, we'll connect. Matter of fact, we'll get some links together for you and send you the tracks.
That would be great.
The interview too, so you can put it up. So yeah. We'll be in contact, I'm sure.
Yes, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right,
thank you so much.
Just ask us. We'll tell you if it sucks or not.
Will do.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.